Hello everyone and welcome to another build guide. Today I'm bringing you Multishot Stun Marksman. In this build we're making use of Channeled Flurry in order to proc Multishot. In this combination of skills allow us to create extremely amount of projectiles that will stun our foes very easily. The build is very simple. We stack all of our passives on Marksman thanks to Channeled Flurry, and then we will create a crazy amount of projectiles that just completely blows up the entire screen. As you can see, the DPS for this build is coming from Multishot, which can hit up to 200k if you stack all your shreds properly. The build uses everything that makes channel good in the gear in order to get all the protections and all the armor possible. You can see, that's when we're channeling, we have a lot of protections and we also have a lot of armor thanks to our blessing, our shurikens and our gear. So this build is actually pretty strong in terms of defensiveness. We're also using another layer of defense, which is ward. Thanks to Shinatra's Candrum, this amulet right here, we're getting more damage and also all our potions are getting converted to ward. So you can see that in case you're in danger, you can just proc your potions really quick. You can get up to 4000 ward if you have a good belt with 5 potions, etc. Not only that, but we also can have a guaranteed dodge at all times if you time it properly. I'm gonna showcase how to do this, but basically when we use a bow skill we get 10 stacks of silver shrouds thanks to our passives, and if midway that we use smoke bomb we get an extra 3, and if we wait for those 3 to run off we can channel it, and you can see how we can create this circle where we're basically always gonna have a smoke shroud active, and if you get hit your downtime is gonna be pretty low because you're gonna be able to completely recycle these things. In case you proc this, you get hit, obviously you're gonna get 100 ward per stack, so that's 1300 ward. In combination with your potions you can reach 5k worth of mitigation pretty easily. Again, on top of that we also have a shift setup with shurikens that will give us armor, even more armor when channeling, and that will also stun enemies 100% if we hit if enemies jump into us. So as long as we have shurikens, everything that comes into our range will get stunned. We also have decoy, of course, and the smoke bomb. The build is really strong and it has potential to get even stronger with gear. But now let's get into the skills. For this build we're gonna be using the following skills: Flurry, which we're focusing on the channeled version of the skill. We're gonna be proccing Multishot every 4th arrow, and we're gonna be getting as much attack speed and as much mana gain as we can. Keep in mind that your mana cost will always be 20 mana per second, but you're gonna get mana back based on each arrow that hits enemies. So if you're hitting with more than 10 arrows per second, that basically makes it so you will gain mana instead of losing it. I'm gonna show a clip now so you can see how this interaction works. But keep in mind that if your resistances are running low, you can always run more points on passive instead of on Adrenaline Rush, so keep that in mind. So you could change these points depending on how much resistances you need on your gear. Next we have Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb is purely defensive. We're getting as much duration as we can. We're getting Glancing Blow and Dash Routes. Keep in mind that in combination with Arrow Guard you can get 100% Glancing Blow with this build thanks to Dash Routes, so keep that in mind. Arrow Guard would be a very strong unique to look forward to add into this build if you have a one with 3 LP, 2 LP, 4 LP, etc. We're also getting the Silver Shrouds that we showcased earlier to get the guaranteed dodge, and we get some cleanse in case we get some bleeds on us. We get some damage mitigation, and we obviously get all the slow for the kiting. Then for shift, it's a setup that will give us some healing since we don't really have healing out of combat otherwise, so this is very nice. Some dodge, the mana back, the extra movement speed so we can flee, and the shuriken setup that we just showed, that in combination with shurikens we grab the guaranteed immobilize, the pierce, so we can hit multiple enemies here with the ethereal blades, and you know, all the armor and all the duration we can. This setup is purely defensive, and it's I took this setup from Tank, Hail of Arrows. It's a very defensive setup that he runs, and I think it makes really good for this build too, so I just head up and stole it pretty much. And then we have Multishot, which is our main damage. Since we're not paying any mana for Multishot, since it's proccing with Flurry, we can go ahead and grab all the stuff that makes Multishot expansive. Our current Multishot is 26 mana, but we're not paying the price because we're getting it to Flurry. Again, we're getting all the extra arrows, we're getting all the damage against slow damage, we're getting the extra damage, and again, because we don't actually cast it ourselves, we don't take the downfall of the attack speed, since it's gonna be proccing no matter what with Flurry. Grab the knockup for extra survivability and extra kiting potential. Keep in mind that this knockup can be a bit annoying for some bosses, so I would recommend you, if you find that there's a boss that it's a bit annoying to get it, you know, out of position because it's screwing with the AoEs or whatever, you can just take this point off. Keep in mind that with this build you're gonna be perma-stunning enemies, so the knockback is not that necessary against bosses, so you can always take this off if necessary. Again, we grab the extra stun chance, and we grab all the stuff that makes it proc more often, and all the pierce, so we get more AoE. If you have if you get a tier 7, I would highly recommend getting the extra damage on sniping. And those are the skills. Let's get into the passives. Hello everyone. For the passives, again, pretty simple. We're gonna grab all the attack speed possible, all the glancing blow, all the classic defensive passives that you got on Marksman, and since we're using the crit vulnerability nodes in order to always crit with our build on the Marksman tree, we don't need to invest into crit chance. That allows us to invest very heavily into dexterity, increased damage, etc. Good thing to mention is that there's some things that you can change about your passives depending on your flavor. These points I really like to get the movement speed for mapping, but if you don't want to use them for mapping because you're just doing arenas, you're doing bosses, whatever, you can always take these points off and invest into concentration if you decide to do that. Again, the same goes for elemental arrows. I use this setup with elemental arrows to get the extra elemental resistances, but if you have good gear like mine, it's actually not gonna be necessary. So you could invest all of these extra 10 points into a concentration setup if you decide to do that. You can also invest into more mana and mana regen when you're out of channeling, of course, or you could put more points into Arrow Storm for more attack speed. Keep in mind that attack speed with Multishot, since it's a channeled ability, can get pretty tricky if you start casting your flurry at a certain attack speed. The ability, some of the passives might snapshot, so you know, learning which ones do and which ones don't is gonna come down to practice, but you can get pretty creative with this. Again, we're gonna grab all the death from afar nodes. These are really important, which give us a lot of armor shred, which makes our damage scale really well, and gives us a lot of stun chance, which is really important to make this skill work. Obviously, the perfect aim with crit multiplier, etc. Really important for this build, especially since we're gonna be using Shinatra's Candrum, the unique amulet. But we have so much health from perfect aim, so much health from draining arrows that we actually don't need any leech other than the health on crit and the health on hit. And this is pretty much the passives. There are some things that you can move forward and change according to your necessities and your choice, but this is what I'm running right now, and I hope you guys can work with it. Let's move into the gear. For gear, this is what I'm currently running, so you can get an idea of what to look for. Regarding idols, you want to get increased damage per arrow with Multishot. Your desired suffixes are chance to slow and hit or poison resistance. Those are both really good. You can also complete your idol panel with some HP idols with resistances, or just like full HP idols, vitality poison resistance idols, or just armor health small idols with armor and resistance small idols. You could also get small idols with void resistance or poison resistance. For your blessings, you want to get the crit multiplier idol. Obviously the grand version is desired. The stun chance on Lagon, slow chance on Reign of Dragons, armor shred, physical shred for Age of Winter, and armor while channeling on the shamans at Spirits of Fire. When it comes to the actual gear, I would say that none of the uniques are mandatory, but Shinatra's Candrum is really good because you get that extra 30% multiplicative damage for your multi-shot, and this is a physical damage dealing build, so this is a big chunk of our damage. If you can get an exalted one, which is pretty a legendary one, which is pretty easy, I would highly recommend doing that. You will have a planner with your desired stats on the description. Drecklor's Compass, really good because of you get the extra arrows, which is more damage, and you get all the incredible flat. This bow is pretty easy to get early on if you use Runes of Ascendance, if you just like run, Fall of the Outcast for the unique idols, the unique bows. So I highly recommend getting your hands on this bow because you just basically forget about having a weapon. Again, it is quite common actually to get 1 LP, 2 LP, so if you can get an exalted one, even better. When it comes to your gloves, mana, so you can channel for a bit longer just in case you miss. Some dexterity to increase your damage, stun chance, armor shred, etc. Keep in mind that in this build, you don't want to have too much HP because you always want to be capped on HP. So your Shitara's Conundrum is always like activated. So in order to build our EHP up, we're gonna be using dodge, we're gonna be using a bit of HP, and we're gonna be losing a lot of armor. For that reason, I highly recommend trying to get an arrow guard. If you can get one with 4 LP, then that's the dream, but a 3 LP would do good. It's really important to make sure that you have your slow chance, which will be provided by your blessing, your chill chance, which will be provided by your quiver suffix, and your shock chance that will also be provided on the quiver. So it's really important that your quiver has chance to chill and chance to shock. Lizard, why do we have chance to shock? Because this is a stun build. As you can see, we have stun chance on our bow, we have stun chance on our gloves, we have stun chance on Somnia, if you can get one, right? We have stun chance everywhere, on our passives, everywhere. So if we build shock makes it so you can enemies are more likely to get stunned, up to 200% increased, because it's 10% per stack, right? And it's 20 stacks. So getting shock on the build, really reliable stun in the high levels. So keep that in mind. Also, highly recommending getting a relic with all resistance while channeling. The better tier this is, the more passives and the less idols you're gonna save on resistances. If you manage to get a tier 7, you're most likely not gonna need to invest on things like elemental arrows on the Marksman tree, the channel resistance on flurry, etc. But you can use a tier 5 and you will still be able to run the build, no worries. Also, you're gonna need an ivory ring to cap on your necrotic resistance, and the other ring is completely optional. I like silver ring for easier mapping, more movement speed, and easier to kite and get out of dangerous situations. Very important when it comes to your belt, you want to have a belt that has +2 potion with health gained and ward tier 5. This is gonna make it so when you use potions with Shinatra's Conundrum, you're gonna see that you're gonna be getting, depending on how high your tier is on belt and how many potions you have, you could get 2k, 3k, 4k ward if you spam all your potions at once. And keep in mind that while you're doing that, you're gonna be getting all the defenses from channeling. And the best thing about channeling is that you're immune to stun. So you can kind of like brute force through the enemy's damage while you're basically stunning everything. Again, you're gonna have a more complete, gear planner on the description. You're gonna have a version without uniques. You're gonna have a version with my current character, and you're gonna have a version of what is the top tier that you can get if you put time into this build and you try to min-max it. This is pretty much the build. Again, the power of stun is really powerful, so I'm just gonna run some footage at the end of the video with some monolith, so you get an idea of what the build can provide. What can the build do in an actual mapping situation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you also guys enjoyed this new formatting. I tried to be a bit more organized with the build guides, because I know they're a bit rambly. So again, I hope you guys appreciate it, and I will try to keep improving on the formatting. Thank you guys for watching, and enjoy the footage.